This is the story of a man who fought not with weapons but with the mind. A man whose greatest rebellion was to convince the oppressed that they were worthy, brilliant, and enough. A man who died in chains but whose ideas marched on, free. This is the story of Steve Biko. He was just 4 when death knocked at his family's door. His father, a government clerk, died young, leaving his mother to scrub floors to feed the children. They lived in the shadows of apartheid, a system that told black children like Steve Biko they were less and dared them to believe it. But Steve was not like the others. Even as a child in Ginsburg Township, his eyes held questions. Why were they not allowed in the same schools? Why could his mother clean a white man's house but not eat at his table? When he earned a scholarship to Lovedale High, he thought it was a step up, until he was expelled, accused of politics he never confessed to. It was injustice again. He completed his studies at St. Francis College, and in 1966, began studying medicine at the University of Natal, Black section. But what Biko diagnosed wasn't physical illness. It was something deeper. He saw it in the slouched backs, the silenced voices, the fearful eyes of his people, the sickness of the mind. And so began the rebellion, not in the streets, but in the soul. He watched the white-led National Union of South African Students talk of equality, yet still hold the mic. Biko wanted more than borrowed sympathy. He wanted black voices to rise, black people to lead, and black minds to break free. In 1968, he co-founded the South African Students Organization, SASO. A year later, the Black Consciousness Movement was born. His message was dangerous in its simplicity. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. He told people to stop apologizing for their skin, their language, their roots. Black is beautiful, they said now, with fists raised, heads high. Biko didn't just preach. He built health clinics like Zanempolo, literacy programs, community trusts. Each was a brick in a new foundation, not just for protest, but for pride. By 1973, the regime felt his power and tried to silence it. They banned him, confined him to King Williamstown, forbid him from gatherings, muted his voice. But how do you silence an idea? August 1977, a dusty road outside Grahamstown. Steve Biko and activist Peter Jones were stopped at a roadblock. They were detained, and then he disappeared. Inside Walmer Police Station, Biko faced what so many freedom fighters did: interrogation, torture, beatings that cracked the skull. They said he banged his head. They said he refused to eat. They said lies. The truth? He was left naked, shackled, broken, in a cell without treatment. When they finally moved him 1,100 kilometers to Pretoria Central Prison, it was too late. September 12, 1977. Steve Biko died. Age 30. The world paused, and then it roared. His funeral was more than a farewell. It was a thunderclap of resistance. Over 20,000 mourners came. Among them, bishops, exiles, diplomats. Even Desmond Tutu stood in reverence. The apartheid government had killed the man, but they had unleashed the martyr. Artists sang his name. Peter Gabriel wrote Biko, echoing across continents. Students in Europe, protesters in America, workers in Ghana. All knew the face, the fire, the voice. And at home, his philosophy refused to die. Even as his followers were hunted, his words lived on in Mandela's prison reflections, in every whisper of black is beautiful, in the burning eyes of a new generation. When apartheid crumbled and Mandela walked free, Steve Biko's shadow walked with him. In 1997, Mandela called him the spark that lit a felt fire across South Africa. Today, Biko's name stands tall. Steve Biko Academic Hospital, Steve Biko Foundation, Steve Biko Road, and perhaps more powerfully, his book, I Write What I Like, still whispers rebellion to every soul who reads it. He didn't live to see the South Africa he dreamed of, but he planted the roots. He fought not with guns, but with pride. Not with armies, but with belief. Liberation begins in the mind. Before chains are broken on the wrists, they must be broken in thought. Biko's life reminds us that the greatest revolutions don't always need violence. They need clarity. They need people bold enough to say, I am enough. My skin is not a curse. My voice matters. He died young, but his truth, it lives forever. So speak, stand, and write what you like. What's your take from his story? Do well to like, subscribe and share.